upgraded to a Category 1 hurricane by the 2 o'clock update. This is the latest satellite imagery of Tropical Storm Ian, and right now is showing some very good convective development, some good spin to it. 2 o'clock update. Give me a second here. So I can see comments. And right now, the center of circulation has readjusted itself just a little bit off towards the northeast, just a little bit by about 10 to 15 miles. Not a big adjustment, but it makes a decent impact. So right now, I'm going to go ahead. Now, I don't put a lot of stock in the GFS forecast model, but I'm going through each individual model to show everyone that the GFS is starting to fall along with the European forecast model and the Euro forecast model, and that's because the European forecast model has been very consistent from the start with Tropical Storm Ian, first tropical depression, invest. And so we're going to go ahead and follow this along. So this is 18 hours from now, September 26, 1 p.m. It's saying it's at 985. I think we're going to be slightly below 980 at that point in the next 18 hours. I think we're going to be looking at a Category 2 in the next 24 hours. In the next 24 hours, we're looking at it approaching the western tip of Cuba. At that point, it's still undergoing rapid intensification. Now, we've already started witnessing that turn. Now, right here, now follow my cursor. So we do have a trough right here in place, and light to moderate shear. Now, I do think that there's going to be additional northeast corrections. I think we're going to see a slight northeast correction at 2 a.m. from the National Hurricane Center. I think it's going to be adjusted slightly. It may not be very noticeable unless you pull the graphics up side by side from the old graphic to the new graphic, like I usually do sometimes. So at this point, this is 54 hours out. We're sitting at a 950. We're close to a we're at a Category 4 at that point. And then we're at a medium Category 4 hurricane, low end Category 4 hurricane at 60 hours out. This is September 28th at 7 a.m. And you're going to see that, you see how right at this point between the 60-hour and 66-hour mark, it's running into that trough. Now, I think that trough is going to act as a steering current, and it's going to start to go and turn towards the northeast. And I actually believe, I'm pretty confident, it's going to try to start turning to the east-northeast at that point. And I'm a little bit concerned. Right now, we don't know where it's going to make landfall, but there's some areas I'm a little bit concerned with because of their geographical details. And that's mostly the geographical details of the Tampa area, 30 miles north of Tampa, going 30 miles south of Tampa. Because of the way the land mass is configured and the way properties sit, it has me a little bit concerned with maybe, and we'll go into details with that tomorrow. We'll start talking structure details tomorrow. So another scenario is, let's say the GFS and European, and it does take that more northerly turn. We're still looking at a pretty significant hurricane between a Category high-end Cat 1 and a medium Cat 2 at that point. I still think it's going to be still organized if it does take that more northerly turn because of that shear component trough right there. But I think it's not going to go to that northeast turn. That northerly turn is going to go to the northeast. So another thing we're going to look at here, and this is the simulated infrared. This is 7 hours out from now, and it already looks pretty impressive. And this is 25 hours out now, the western tip of Cuba. And this is 37 hours out. Now, this is not going to be a compact hurricane. This is going to be a rather large hurricane with a pretty well-defined eye at the 43-hour mark. So one of the things you're also going to have to consider, if you are on the western coast of Florida, like the Florida Keys, Tampa, that general area, you're going to have to figure out, well, how far out do those tropical storm winds extend from the hurricane force winds? That's something that we're going to have to know during the time of that. when the hurricane, hunters go in there and they sample the system, because we got to figure out how far those extend out, because some areas might start experiencing tropical storm force winds before other areas experience them. So that's another thing to keep in mind if you're trying to leave and evacuate. You might start getting those winds and some damaging effects before other people do. And then this is at 61 hours out and going forward. So this is what it looks like currently. And we have some very good convective development, some brand new convective development off towards the north of the center. I believe that the center of circulation is right here, because it adjusted itself again back a little bit towards the north-northeast. We have some older convection down to the south with some modest, slightly older convection off towards the west. We're starting to get that spin to it. Now, this is the Hwrf forecast model, and we're going to go over this real quick. I'm going to try to make this short and sweet to the point. So we're going to go ahead and go forward here. Now, this is also the Hwrf forecast models following more of the European forecast model as well. And we're going to go ahead and check the Hwrf forecast model real quick. Go over this information. Now, the Hwrf is also in alignment with the European forecast model. The GFS is aligning with that as well. And as you can see, it takes more of that northeast, east-northeast turn. So that's something that I think we'll continue to see being ingested into the data products. This is from the National Hurricane Center. Let me update it. Alright, so here's the 2 a.m. update. So this is the 2 a.m. update from the National Hurricane Center. And it is a slight difference, but it has pushed it a little bit closer to land. Let me see here. We're still at tropical storm. We're 5 miles. So in order to have a Category 1 hurricane, it needs to be 75 miles per hour. Okay, we're 5 miles per hour under that threshold. So pretty close, pretty close. I would say probably the next hour, honestly. So once again, they've shifted it a little bit further towards the east. This is 8 a.m. This is 8 p.m. Wednesday. At this point, this area of circulation is about 25 miles off the coast of Tampa. That's the center of circulation is about 25 miles off the coast of Tampa, Florida. That's 8 o'clock Wednesday, and I expect this to continue to shift a little bit closer. All it needs to do is shift another like 30 miles, and you're talking about it, making landfall in that general area. So keep that in mind. And depending on how far tropical storm force winds extend out from the hurricane force winds will also play a factor in that as well. So we're going to go ahead and update this so I can see this newest data. And once again, this is basically GEFS, tracks and minimum central pressure, and it's more that shift it's focusing on there. So yeah, and once again, we have a continuous new data being ingested to the models, more and more of a northeast shift, east-northeast shift. So I do believe that's pretty likely to occur as with time progresses. I think it's going to be a more of an east-northeast turn once it meets with this trough right here with that light to moderate shear. So I do think that's going to happen. Things are still going to change, but I do believe that that's most likely a good scenario, a potential likely scenario. So, and at that point, it looks like also another thing to note as well, it looks like that the major hurricane status has been bumped up. So now we're looking at a longer duration of major hurricane status. closer as well. So you're looking at between a medium Cat 3 to a low-end Category 4 hurricane, being very close, at least on this track, being about 25 miles off the coast of Tampa, so center of circulation. So you're talking about, some pretty dicey situation there potentially. So we just got to continue to watch it. Data's getting very good. Model confidence is increasing. We're 5 miles per hour underneath a Category 1 hurricane right now. So I hope you all have a great night. We will be down. I'll be leaving Monday night at 1 a.m. because if it takes that turn, it's going to make landfall sooner. So I'm going to be in place. We're going to be staged about 2 hours north of Tampa, because if it does try to take that more of a northerly turn, I don't want to be too far out from it. So stage 2 hours north of Tampa, and then go down from there once we see that correction and satellite, and then go from there. We're going to course splice it. We're going to go from the northeast quadrant to the eastern quadrant, and then we're going to try to get into the southern quadrant of it. So I'm going to try to do a whole 180 sampling it like I did Hurricane Ida. So y'all